We are back with another edition of the Smart Driving Cars podcast. We appreciate you listening or watching and hope you're staying healthy. This edition is sponsored by the Smart ETF's Smart Transportation and Technology ETF, symbol MOTO. For more information, head to motoetf.com. I'm Fred Fishkin, along with the Faculty Chair of Autonomous Vehicle Engineering at Princeton University, Alain Kornhauser. Hi again, Alain.
Good morning, Fred. So nice to be with you again.
And we're staying healthy, staying isolated somewhat.
I'm good to go, man. Trotted, I guess, 3 miles today. I'm getting back there,
Absolutely. You're so fast, nobody's within 6 feet of you. I know that.
They're so far ahead of me, nobody's within. No, go ahead. Yes. Especially my wife. Go ahead.
Joining us is Dick Mudge, president and founder of Compass Transportation and Technology, with expertise in transportation planning and economics and finance. Great to have you here, Dick.
Yep, good to see you.
Dick, wonderful to have you.
Well, it's been a pretty remarkable week with the continuing coronavirus paralysis and the resulting glut of oil around the world, sending the price of crude below $0 a barrel at one point for the first time in history. Dick, that doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to a lot of people, including me. How can something like oil have negative value?
It is pretty amazing. I know as soon as I heard that, I said, why did I buy an electric car? What was I thinking? With gasoline is free, you can go any place. The people in economics, you talk about supply and demand curves. And when the supply and demand curves cross, that tells you what the price is, how much that will clear the market. But right now, if you have a negative price for oil, it's not a demand curve anymore, it's a gift curve. The stuff is free. And if you go through and think about the factors that are behind this, you look at demand. The demand for gasoline is down 40%. Jet fuel is down 60%. So demand has dropped tremendously. The ability to locate where to store fuel is limited. Costs a lot of money to get more tanks. On the supply side, you have all these countries that depend on their future, their leaders, by getting more oil. So you have Iran and Russia and Saudi Arabia and others who must produce the stuff. So you have a major imbalance. And the other thing I think that must have happened is the leaders, the business leaders in these other countries did not understand the demand had dropped. And I don't know how they missed that fact. But clearly people were shipping boatloads of stuff when there's no place to put it. And I'm not quite sure how all those PhD energy economists still have jobs at those places.
But Dick, I've been telling my students in the last couple of days, those that choose to talk with me, I had never thought of myself, I think before 2 days ago, of the concept of negative oil prices. I had never uttered those words. I don't think I've ever heard those words. Sure, we talked about $147 a barrel. We talked about 150. We talked about 250. We talked about 500. We talked about 1,000. We talked about infinity a barrel. We talked about $30 a barrel. We talked about $20 a barrel. We even talked about $7 a barrel, apparently the cost to get it out of the ground in Saudi Arabia. Never in my mind did the concept ever go to zero, let alone negative. How about you? I mean, think about it.
I've been involved in, at one point when I worked for the U.S. Congress, we had people who were doing energy forecasts, and the price always went up. The forecast they were making, it was easily beyond $100 a barrel, and none of the curves ever went down below zero.
I mean, if you put up a curve on a blackboard that went down anywhere, I didn't even go near zero because it was so it's such a concept was not in any. I think anybody's mind. I'm waiting to see the first guy or gal that says, "Oh yeah, back in '72, I was looking at implications of negative oil prices or something." I mean, I can't wait for those 2020 hindsight look back saying, "Oh yeah, no, I told you so." What?
Well,
Any of that?
it hasn't. As I said before, it's no longer a demand curve. It turns out to be a gift curve.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it doesn't mean that when you pull up to the pump, you can take their credit card and swipe it on your phone, let them pay you for filling up. That's not what this means. But according
wait a minute. Let me jump in here. Is apparently those people who have put solar collectors on their roofs, in fact, give electricity to the PSE&Gs of this world, and those PSE&Gs, give them money for it. And in some sense, if you are willing to store the oil for them or take it off their hands so that they can, put the stuff that they've paid for, who knows what, someplace to put it. I don't know if it does. I mean, once you're in this realm, none of the models, you correct me, Dick, none of the models extrapolate to this region of the curve. Do they, or do they, or do they?
No,
I mean,
there's
no data point out there. It has to be an extrapolation. It can't be an interpolation because we've not had a data point out there to interpolate between those suckers, right?
No, there's no, like even getting down, I mean, the prices bounce back up again, but even if it's in $5, $10, that's, as you said, that's even around the price cost to produce it in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah,
so if it stays around $5, $10, even $20, that changes a huge amount of things. I mean, why should anybody buy an electric car like I did? Why should anybody have a solar panels on their house? Why should anybody ever have a wind turbine? Those things barely made economic sense when you were at $60, $70 a barrel. So, if it stays at that level, everything changes.
Do you know what those models give you if you put in a negative or or approaching zero epsilon in there? I mean, those models go nuts. Okay,
but could they also lead to bankruptcies, to companies going out of business, and eventually you wind up with a shortage? Because nobody's going to be pumping.
Well, sure. I mean, of course, but I mean, but none of the what I'm arguing a little bit is the tools that we've put together to be able to look into the future, basically have ranges over which they might work. I mean, them even working on those ranges is questionable. We're finding ourselves, who knows where. Not anywhere near, I mean, in brand new territory. So any model that you say, oh, the model tells me that this is going to happen, I'd have to say, talk to me here.
But even now, the actual price did not stay below zero for very long, but it's down to $10.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, yeah, I mean, forget the, epsilon price of oil is what? Or, really you're not even the cost of getting it out of the ground, just the variable cost, forget any of the sunk costs and crap and whatever, go bankrupt, let the banks get the hit on all the money. What you're left with, and you're down to, at that price, you haven't moved it out of the desert. You certainly haven't brought it to Louisiana. You haven't gotten it to the pump yet. Or I mean, it's like, what?
Just explaining. Go ahead.
That's huge implications for everything else. If the price stays that low, why should anybody use transit again? It has Yeah,
Well, I mean, the implications of our model, many of the forcing factors behind a lot of the things that we were doing was always the price of oil. And what if it gets back to 147 a barrel? And what if it goes beyond that? And and the fear of that. And let's protect against that.
well, and this is the 50th anniversary of Earth Day.
Yeah.
If you go back and look at the forecasts that were made 50 years ago at Earth Day, they were talking about huge prices of oil. There would be shortages. You were going to be well over $100 a barrel. All that stuff is wrong.
And we were beyond peak oil. And then somebody discovered fracking. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Whoa, maybe what's under there is essentially an infinite supply. But let's make sure we keep that down, because we have to, Goldman Sachs wants to make sure that the price of oil is high for I don't know why. Putin or who knows, I don't know, whether you mentioned them originally. Although poor Venezuela, even with high prices, look at what's happened to poor Venezuela. I mean, oh my goodness. So never mind. That's a whole lot of other stuff that we shouldn't get in. This is supposed to be smart driving cars, though.
But Alan, so if you relate it to that, though, eventually, assuming the price of gasoline and of oil stays low for a pretty long time, when this is over and people can go about their business, imagine how much more driving people might be doing, and the traffic, the congestion, which leads you back to the need for things like automated vehicles, ride sharing, and such. Not so much dependent on the price of the gasoline, but because of what's going to result from that.
Well, Fred, I'd argue with you that you're suggesting that there's a price elasticity of demand associated with gasoline. There isn't. Okay, people were traveling a lot when there was high price of gas, and when there was low price of gas, and the price elasticity of gas is essentially zero. So, I don't know. I mean, people travel for a whole lot of other reasons. People didn't travel for a lot of reasons. One of the very, very small reasons that people didn't travel was because of what the price of gasoline was. Even at, $4 or $5 a gallon, they were still out there buying SUVs with poor gas mileage. The reaction. We would have loved. Many of us argued that this is the way to make sure that we deal with some of these things. I think that with respect to the congestion, the amount of travel, people are going to be that they don't need to travel. Why would anyone rent 3, 5, 6 floors of a skyscraper in Lower Manhattan, where you're bringing all those people in to basically be on screens like we are? You'd have to take New Jersey Transit, Long Island Railroad, Metro North for 3 hours, go through all that crap to be there, when in fact they're probably operating at least 80% efficiency at home.
Yeah, I think those are important things to talk about.
I think that's going to be, to me, that's going to be the big one. All this stuff about smart cities. The smart cities is going to be, nobody who's going to want to go there?
Actually, cheaper for some companies to pay the mortgage or rent.
Absolutely.
For some employees.
Do you know how much they were paying per square foot in those buildings? To bring people, and that's just the rent that you had to pay. It's not the 3 hours a day plus that the people had to suffer through New Jersey Transit, Long Island Railroad, Metro North, or driving through the Lincoln Tunnel. Okay, I mean, you kidding me?
Well, this should be great news for the airline industry, but the question is, who's going to fly right now?
Well, Dick, will you jump in? Go ahead.
No, I think there's once we get rid of COVID-19, the interesting thing, which Alan was just talking about, we may not go back to the old ways that fast. People are going to want to avoid living in a high rise. People are going to be Companies will say you don't need to come to work every day. People will be traveling very differently for some time. I don't think forever, but it'll take a while before we go back to the way things were. And that's not good for traditional ways of travel. It also has implications for autonomous vehicles too. Well, people want to be in a shared vehicle when they don't know who was there before. That makes it harder.
As I will argue on Monday, they absolutely will, but we'll wait for Monday for that one.
And we're going to tell you more about Monday in a little bit. But this is a good time to remind folks about our sponsor, the Smart ETFs, Smart Transportation and Technology ETF, symbol MOTO. You can get more information at motoetf.com. If you're not familiar with ETFs, might be a good time to do some research. They can help to spread risk while investing in a category of stocks. To learn more, check out the white paper titled The Smart Transportation Revolution at motoetf.com under the Insights and News tab. Great information there that can help you make a better decision, perhaps. So let's talk a little bit. You mentioned Monday, Alan. What's going on Monday? What you and Dick get into?
Well, Dick and I, or I should say Dick, I think Dick's original idea for us to sort of do a debate, Shark Tank type format at the Automated Vehicle Conference a number of years ago, in which we would basically debate various topics in automated vehicles and do it in a way to engage the audience, to get people to think. Instead of say, hey, this is the answer, it could be either here or it could be there. And there's room for discussion, and let's really discuss it. We don't know where people are going to end up. And so this has evolved at the Automated Vehicle Symposium. That's the summer symposium that's been put on by the Transportation Research Board in usually California, a couple of times, once in Detroit, once in Florida. But again, this year in July in San Diego. But we were sitting around chatting, right, Dick? And we said, geez, why don't we try one of these things on Zoom? Why? Because who knows if we'll be able to go to San Diego this summer, and we may, although the decision has not been made to not have it live, we may have it on Zoom or on the inner tubes here, and so we decided to, why don't we try one? And so we're trying one, right, Dick?
Yeah, and we got a strong panel, people who have combination of knowledge, opinions, and a sense of humor. So there's a lot of fairly direct things that are said, but they're done in as I said, with a sense of humor. So it's fun, generates knowledge and an active debate.
So this is taking place 2 p.m. Eastern time on Monday, and people do need to sign up. And the place to do that is at zoom-tank.com. It should be a really interesting afternoon.
Yeah, it really, I think it should be. This is brand new territory. Talk about going to negative oil prices. This is new territory for all of us. To try to do this in a way to bring people that are knowledgeable and very interested together to do a live discussion as best we can, to try to simulate it as if we were all together at a venue where you could raise your hand and ask questions and so on from the audience. We're going to see what we can do. We don't want speeches from the audience, but we'd like to have questions, discussions, comments, and we're going to see if we can do it. And see what the difficulty. So this is the first try at it. We may fall flat on our face on it. I can say that, it's 4 days from now, or however many days Monday is from today. But We already have, I think, or last night we had 217 people that registered. I mean, which is to me an enormous number. I don't know. We certainly won't be able to have 217 people contribute, although my feeling is if people want to continue on after the hour that we've said and continue the discussion, we're going to see if we can leave it up. We don't know. This is brand new territory. Dick?
I agree. We can keep going. We can even have a debate on paper afterwards with questions that people have. And obviously, if this works, if the people actually show up and are still on at the end, maybe we'll do 2 or 3 more of these things.
Yeah, and we're looking at this, people have done webinars since the beginning of the web. We're calling this a Zoominar. Why? Because at least in my involvement in remote teaching, since both my wife with Princeton Day School at a high school and me with Princeton, trying to continue educating, learning, thinking among folks. You get zoomed out at the end of the day with Zoom, but Zoom, it's nothing like being in a classroom and engaging, or at a conference and engaging. It's of course not that, but it's not bad. And so, and I think it's better than what the webinars have been. The webinars seem to have always shut you out, and I hope we do it. I hope that the Zoominar ends up being better than webinars. And if they are, then we'll do it some more. If people find it worthwhile, engaging, contribute, why not, Dick?
Absolutely. More than merrier.
A couple of other topics to turn to, and they're all kind of related here, I think, to everything we've been talking about. GM announced this week that it's shutting down the Maven car sharing service. This was an app-based service that they launched back in 2016. They had a companion app for renting vehicles to Maven drivers. GM is saying it's going to use what it learned from Maven in the future. What for, we don't know yet.
Yeah, well, car sharing, a lot of people tried car sharing, Zipcar and so on. They were supposed to be great. They seem like they should be great. You buy a car basically on the margin, only when you need it type of thing. Again, the marketplace didn't really react. I think, people look at vehicles as a possession, as a, they don't really want to look at them incrementally, it seems. And I think there's a lot to learn. I don't think that the GM thing was an enormous success that was generating all this revenue that they wanted to continue to generate. And then with the COVID stuff out there, nobody's sharing a glass. Nobody's saying, "Here, have a drink." Nobody. You want to take a puff? We used to do that. I think when I was 13 or something. Yeah. Doesn't happen so all those changes. I mean, if you would have been in that company looking at it saying, let's take what we learned, see how we can pivot, but this is going nowhere in the near term.
Well, Uber is really trying to pivot to trying to become more of a delivery service involving, I think, things, medical supplies and such. Sure. as needed now, just trying to have something for these vehicles to be out there.
Uber's dying to have, some positive publicity out there of any kind. Of course they are. But Uber price was based on scale. This does not get you to scale. Okay. And how Uber gets to scale, how Lyft gets to scale, I have no idea. But if they don't scale, they become a penny stock. Okay.
And as you pointed out, the business model has always looked like, hey, this only works if they go driverless.
Well, that's been my view. I mean, you can't pay it. People aren't willing to pay enough to pay a chauffeur. Otherwise, we would have all had chauffeurs in the 50s. In the 40s, in the 60s, in the 70s, in the 80s. Why wouldn't have we had a chauffeur? but none of us ever wanted to pay for a chauffeur. As long as we were providing the driving function for free, being the slave that does the work, that was fine. Or our spouse was doing it for us, or our parents were doing it for us. Yeah, no problem. But if you have to pay somebody and pay them a living wage, which I guess people deserve. I mean, we can't be on that say, hey, let's, we not have the new, the slaves of the 21st century are going to be the people that chauffeur us. I mean, come on, get out of here. We're not doing that. So as soon as you have to pay for it, Dick, you're the economist. Help me out here.
Well, you mentioned that Uber was moving towards delivering packages, which in the near term makes sense, but there are also a growing number of companies which have fully autonomous package delivery services right now. I think those will be increasingly popular even without COVID-19. And I think if you have a little box that runs around with nobody in it, it's tough I'm not sure how Uber or Lyft competes with that long term.
I mean, we've said, Dick, for some time, what does Bill Gates maybe most want? The opportunity to have, a mobility machine that's distributing the things out of the Robbinsville mega distribution center.
I think you meant Jeff Bezos on this one. But
yeah, to my house in the middle of the night and dropping it off in the Bezos box out front of my house or whatever, or figuring out a way to flip it onto my porch the way I used to flip morning newspapers on when I was 10 years old. I mean, whatever. And that's coming for him and Amazon. It's absolutely coming. And you can do that one at night. You can also do it just as easily today during the day because of the use of our streets during the day today. It looks like 3 o'clock in the morning 3 months ago. But anyway, so those are enormous economic forces behind that, because first of all, everybody wants free shipping. Probably sells more things than any other promotional thing, right, Dick?
Yeah.
And now you can actually deliver it for free. Whoa!
And it's starting to happen. There was a company, and I get the name wrong, Neuro, that NHTSA even said you don't have to have a steering wheel.
Yeah.
And they're not even starting to have a driver. That the cost is going to be low. It's probably easier to scale that than it is for Uber or Lyft.
Yeah, and plus, guess what? You don't have to manage human drivers to try to say, "Hey, you coming into work today? And you sure?" I mean, these are machines. You write code; they go do what the code that you wrote. It's gorgeous.
Yeah. Well, interesting. The ties in with what's going to be taking place on Monday that we were talking about. The Drive is out with an article headlined, "The autonomous car industry is about to get hammered." And it's talking about, of course, the impact of the coronavirus, legacy automakers pulling back on investments, funding getting squeezed, fears going forward about ride sharing. But Alan, you were just making a case a second ago about why this technology is needed almost more than ever.
Well, I'm going to make people tune in on Monday because I'm a believer in that, the future is going to be the best of times rather than the worst of times, which is the fundamental debate that we're doing on Monday, which is, where is this industry going? Is it going this way or is it going that way? And I guess I'm a guy that looks at glasses half full. Okay. And so you have to tune in Monday to get my response to that. I'm terrible, aren't I? Look, if you don't pay for the second lecture, you don't get it.
It's in TV, they call it a teaser. So.
Oh, a teaser. Oh, thank you.
One of the side benefits of COVID-19, everybody talks about how the autonomous vehicle manufacturers have missed their deadlines. COVID-19 gives them an extra year to sit around and work on the technology.
Nick, stop. That's what I'm going to say Monday.
Okay.
No, hey, in Princeton, we've extended the tenure clock by a year.
Okay.
6 years. Now we're saying, hey, you got 7. Dick, to your point.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I'm going to repeat it on Monday, okay, if I'm put in that corner.
Yeah.
I don't want to give ammunition to your opponent Monday. There's also a new survey from J.D. Power, and we've talked about surveys before. In fact, we've had them on the podcast with us. They're showing a lower confidence in self-driving technology, with more than 2/3 of Americans saying they don't think it's ready. They don't think society's ready to integrate it in there. Sorry, Alan, I don't want you to cry.
I mean, I have to find tissues.
This survey was taken before the coronavirus really hit. So,
whatever.
I think those surveys are useless.
Thank you, Dick.
I mean, you have people who've never ridden one, never seen one.
Right. And they pointed that out before when we talked to J.D. Power. They said, one of this is how people feel about it, but how much do they know about it? Very, very little.
Everybody I've ever seen who's gotten into one of these vehicles, after about 2 minutes, they say, "Is that all it is?"
Yeah. Look, yesterday I was on a conference call with people in Trenton. And as you know, I've been working with Trenton for some time now to try to create a welcoming environment for all those. And once they hear about the kind of mobility that this is going to afford, both for seniors and people who would like to be able to go to blue collar jobs and so on, they are, I mean, it's almost too easy. I think we're in fine shape.
Well, it's going to be an interesting chat on Monday, isn't it? We should also mention, for people who aren't aware, that, of course, the Smart Driving Car Summit that had been planned for May has been postponed, and hoping to still do that, a physical conference in October, Alan?
Yeah, well, look, if we can't do a physical conference in October, we've got major problems. Okay. I mean, really, it's one thing to be basically not have an economy for a month or two. If we're not going to have an economy for 6 months or a year, I knock on wood, I'm very lucky. I think you're relatively lucky, Fred. Dick, I think you're probably relatively lucky. There are a lot of folks out there that are really suffering, and we can't let them. We can't let them suffer, and the only way to not let them suffer is to get back to some kind of an economy. We can't have the price of oil be negative, okay, to get back to because in the end that implies that the economy is at zero, okay, and if we're at zero, then people are they're hungry. And so what does that do? That, to me, that suggests that, another Chairman Mao comes out of the rice paddies and, leads a revolution, or out of the Iowa cornfields, or I don't know what, or out of Appalachia, or I don't know. But there are many places in this country and around the world. I mean, I think one of the headlines in New York Times this morning was, about the hunger around the world associated with this. And we can't have, I mean, so somehow we're going to have to take the risk of maybe a few people, getting a cough and getting a cold. Yes, we have killed an inordinate number of people and so on, and this does seem to strike some people very badly. But I don't know. We're paying a very big price to save what may be not that many lives, but I didn't say.
Well, where the balance is,
I don't want to go there, but
that is a social debate that's going to rage for some time. Where the balance is.
Yeah, no, life's a risk. Hey, life's a risk, And it's a good thing it's a risk. Otherwise, it wouldn't be worth living. If we
Absolutely.
knew that everything was going to be good going into the future, why bother? If you knew your team was going to win in a sporting contest, why go watch it? I mean, unless you're a Yankee fan. I mean,
Look, this is going to be, you can get it, you're watching this or listening to it, you know how good this debate on Monday is going to be.
whatever. You're going to hate me. You're all going to hate me, which is what I want.
So, this is being called the driverless new normal, live online debate coming up on Monday, 2 p.m. Eastern. If you want to watch and take part, you go to zoom-tank.com and you register there. You need to register ahead of time. Again, 2 o'clock on Monday, zoom-tank.com. That's going to wrap up.
I should say the price is not negative. It's not like oil.
Yeah, it is zero.
But
It
not
is zero.
negative.
Although
we're not paying people to come to this.
We're not paying people to come to this. But if you feel sorry for us, we do have some costs that we're going to need that we're incurring. So if you want to make a contribution, at some point we're going to come out and ask for some contributions or some sponsorships. But right now, Dick and I are doing it, and Fred, we're doing it for the fun of it, right?
Absolutely. And that's going to wrap up this edition. Thanks to our sponsor, the Smart ETF's Smart Transportation and Technology ETF. The ticker symbol for the ETF is MOTO. And more information is available at motoetf.com. We want to thank Dick Mudge from Compass Transportation and Technology for being here with us. Great as usual, Dick, and really looking forward to Monday.
Yeah. Thanks, Dick. We got to rest up, right? Because Monday we're gonna let it all hang out, right? Thank you.
Thank you.
You can find us at smartdrivingcar.com, also on Anchor FM, Spotify, TuneIn, Apple, Google, Spreaker, SoundCloud, wherever you get your podcast. You can ask your smart speaker to play us too, and you can find my tech reports at techstination.com. I'm Fred Fishkin along with Alain Kornhauser. Stay safe, and thank you for listening.
And be sure to help all your loved ones stay safe also. That's the number one thing that you should be doing.